Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U podcast, the Miami Herald's Miami Hurricanes podcast. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line. I'm wearing an Orange Bowl sweatshirt for Susan Miller-Degnan, our Hurricanes beat writer here at the Herald. Susan, congrats. You're being honored by the Orange Bowl in December. The Edwin Pope Award, named after legendary Miami Herald columnist. So had to wear my Orange Bowl sweatshirt this week.
You surprised me with that. I wasn't sure if you knew. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that. Like really proud of that because I love the Orange Bowl. It is.
How many Orange Bowls have you covered?
A lot. I started in the 90s, I guess early 90s.
Yeah. There are probably a couple you missed because Miami was in like the year you were stuck in El Paso for a week.
Yeah.
You missed that one. Yeah.
There's some I missed, but like a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. National championships and
and
Miami games. The last Miami game in the Orange Bowl was
the Wisconsin one, right?
Wisconsin. Wisconsin. And that didn't end up well.
No.
And I also covered the Orange Bowl committee.
Right.
Which I really don't do now for years and years. So I knew a lot of the executive directors when there were some there were some newsworthy stories that I had to do, good and bad. I also had to cover the vote, the historical, one of the most incredibly intense stories I've ever covered is the vote that the Orange Bowl committee had for whether to move the game from the Orange Bowl to Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, I guess that would have been because that overlapped for
1998.
I don't know when that would have been, but
yeah. I think 1998, maybe, if that makes sense. I think that's when it was. But it was incredibly intense.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They had security guards and cops and all these companies that were there to make sure they had a ballot box that they were treating like it was Fort Knox. I mean, it was really emotional. The people that were lined up to vote and stuff. I mean, it was the old guard and the new people who wanted it moved, and oh my God, it was very emotional. So anyway, I went to Dallas. All those years, the Alliance and the BCS or whatever Bowl Championship Series
right,
and all the different iterations.
Everything has been to the Orange Bowl, so it's
everything.
An institution, obviously.
But the Herald used to send me, when they had meetings, out of town. It was pretty cool, But I love the Orange Bowl. Let's just end it there. They're really great people, and they do a lot. Honestly, they do a lot for the community.
They do, yeah. I mean, how many high school games have I covered in my career that are like Orange Bowl field at whatever? Like,
yes,
so many. So
they've built fields, and they've done a lot of like study complexes for kids with computers, and I mean, they're just good people. They're such good people. Anyway, let's go.
Yeah, all right. We got obviously other stuff to talk about this week. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the Orange Bowl eventually on this show. But I guess we got another off the field topic we want to start with. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Virginia game and another win for the Cardiac Canes in overtime. We'll talk about the quarterback situation as Tyler Van Dyke really struggling, but Miami getting the win anyway. But first, as I said, we're staying off the field. Some new schedules out from the ACC this week. Obviously, the conference is going to look a lot different in future seasons. You're getting ready to go out to the West Coast. You spend a lot of time on the West Coast, but when's the last time you covered a football game on the West Coast? Probably been a long time.
Yeah, I did a bowl game there. I think the Emerald Bowl.
Yeah, that's the one in Oregon,
Cal.
Right?
No, Cal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, it's been a long time.
The Emerald Bowl. Yeah, I think it was at Cal, but I also covered Cal, Miami, and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
yes.
What were your big takeaways from the new schedule? And I mean, obviously, the intrigue, I guess, is the new teams and who Miami is going to be playing moving forward. But what were kind of your biggest takeaways from covering the changes to the ACC this week?
Biggest takeaways, which one of them I knew, was that is still playing with FSU. Now they're calling it a protected rivalry. We knew that was going to happen.
Yep.
But they added Virginia Tech back.
Mm-hmm.
UM used to play Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech was in the Coastal every year. Now, they're back like FSU. They're playing them every year. Virginia Tech.
That's a good one too. Obviously, there's Big East history with those two, so it's it's one that makes sense for Miami to have back on their schedule.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. And then my eyes just kept going to where the new teams. I just wanted to know when they're going to California, and of course, they're going to California in 2024. They're going to Cal, like I said, which is cool, in Berkeley. Mm-hmm. And then the way they're doing it, the ACC is, I don't think the current ACC teams are going to travel 2 years in a row. No team is going to have to travel 2 years in a row to California or to the West Coast. So Miami is playing Cal in 2024, and they're playing Stanford in 2026, which is cool.
Yeah.
And they're playing SMU.
That's the one that caught my eye, right? We were watching in the press box before Miami Virginia. We were watching in the press box on Saturday night before the Miami Virginia game. Rhett Lashley's SMU Mustangs put up, what was it? Were they 52 points in the first half of their game or whatever we were watching? Rhett Lashley, obviously former Miami offensive coordinator, has done a good job there, and I guess is still going to be the coach there in 2025. Miami's that'll be a fun one. I think a little reunion for some Hurricanes, although I don't know if there will be that many guys left by that point who were coached by Lashley, but it wasn't that long ago. He was Miami's offensive coordinator, a really good offensive coordinator at Miami.
Really good.
So I'm looking forward to that. I've enjoyed watching him. SMU was good when he took over, obviously. They hired him not because they fired the other coach because he's incompetent, because their other coach left for another job. But he's done a really good job, I think, sustaining stuff there. So I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup in a couple of years. Yeah,
definitely. Me too. And then those guys come here, the other times.
Yes.
So that'll be, I think it's fun.
It's funny, Cal and Stanford are on paper, they're the big name additions, right? They're the Pac-12 teams, and Stanford had some really good teams in the not so distant past.
Correct.
But to me, SMU's when I'm looking through, that's the draw to me. They're a fun offense. They are, another program that's had a lot of success in their history. They've certainly, out of these three teams, been the best over the last 5 years or so. So they're kind of like the smallest name. I would guess the smallest school. I think they're probably smaller than Stanford. I don't know for sure, but
no, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
actually.
Either way, two privates, SMU. But to me, they're kind of the exciting draw right now, because I think that's just a program that's been really good, going back before Lashley was there, and now obviously with him too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's going to be fun, and remember that there's 12 teams in the playoffs also starting next year. It's all of college football.
Tomorrow, next year is going to be very, very different. College football has changed a lot. Obviously NIL has changed a lot, but I think for the most part, when you're watching the games this year, they still kind of feel the same as they have since the play, in the year 10 of the playoff. I think next year will be year 10 of the playoff. It's felt the same, NIL, obviously the COVID year stands alone, but NIL and all the other big changes to the sport, the clock. Remember, the clock was a big storyline at the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah,
all these changes, the product feels the exact same. Next year is going to feel, obviously a lot of teams have realigned this year. UCF playing in the Pac-12 for the most part. My Saturdays feel the same as they ever did. Next year I think it's going to be different with more realignment, but the playoff is it's going to make it so different where not every game is going to have the same level of urgency for the top 5, top 10 teams in the country. But, Miami would have, if they like, you throw out the Georgia Tech game this year, you're probably not talking about the playoff. Next year, you'd maybe be talking about the playoff. Like there's going to be just much more teams that feel that, I think, different level of intensity deeper into the season. Right? Like right now, we've got like 7 or 8 teams that are real contend. Like even what's Penn State, I think, is 9, and they don't feel like a real contender to me with the way they played. It got kind of crushed by Ohio State. So we're down to 8 teams in the first week of November. Like that's going to be so different next year, where anyone in the top 25 at that point is going to feel kind of in play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah, it's going to be wild. And when the college football playoff standings come out, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Week. So
yeah, more teams interested, I think, is generally good. That's why I've always been in favor of playoff expansion. Is like, I know people are like, does it water down the regular season?
No,
to a certain extent, yes.
Well,
but for the most, like, but more teams are part of the conversation, I guess.
Yeah, I like it.
Put it. Yeah, of course. All right, let's dive into some actual football. Miami, Virginia on Saturday. It was a doozy. A similar type of barn burner to Miami, Virginia last year. We got a lot of Andy Borregales. We got not a whole lot of good offense. We got overtime 2 weeks in a row with Miami going to overtime. I was telling you, I don't think I'd ever, and
no,
I've covered Miami football for like 5 years, I guess. Am I in now? 5, 6 years. I obviously also covered Syracuse football when I was in college. I don't think I had ever covered a overtime game before the Clemson game, and I did it in back-to-back weekends. Miami
it's good practice.
It's very Miami is keeping it interesting, certainly. Different little feeling, I think, coming out of the Clemson game out of this game than the Clemson game, where the Clemson game felt like with your backup quarterback, that was like, and you came back in the fourth quarter, felt like a really impressive win, as we said last week, really important win.
Yeah.
This one was kind of just like, you glad you survived and advanced, because Tyler Van Dyke did not play well. Again, the offense just did not provide a whole lot. Obviously, some bright spots. You got a Cam Kinchin's pick 6, Mark Fletcher, we're definitely going to talk about before we wrap up here. But the Tyler situation, it is a week ago we talked about how the Clemson win was, I thought, really impressive, because Miami proved they could win without great quarterback play. Emory did not do a whole lot in that game until the fourth quarter, when he made a couple clutch throws. And the takeaway coming out of that was like, Miami can win in different ways, and they've got a quarterback who, if he's healthy, we think is still really good. Good sign for the team moving forward. Whereas now it's Miami again proved they can win without their quarterback playing well, but Virginia is not nearly as good as Clemson. I shouldn't say not nearly as good as Clemson. Clemson's not very good, but not as good as Clemson. I feel confident saying that. And you don't want to be saying we won without good quarterback play when you had your starting quarterback playing the entire game. So some good, some not so good. And the not so good is obviously the concern right now, I think, because Tyler Van Dyke, who obviously missed the game the week before with an injury, just really did not look like himself on Saturday.
No, he did not, and I think he's obviously still injured.
Yeah, I mean, not a surprise. Yeah,
I mean, each week, yes, of course, you're getting better, but I think he had some real, like, intense injuries there. No, I'm not saying.
I mean, he rattled them off, right? Like, or it's not like explicitly, but just over the last couple of weeks, he told us about the finger after North Carolina. Obviously, we know about the knee. Like, he's wearing a big old brace on that knee.
Yeah, the knee got hit pretty hard in that Clemson game. Not Clemson, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the ribs. He had definite rib injuries. I'm not sure exactly what they were. I know for a fact he had rib injuries, and I know also he had back injuries. So I don't know how those have progressed or gotten better. I think the knee is problematic, and to me, it was quite obvious that when he was throwing, he was not using. He was using his arm, kind of not using his whole body leverage, his lower body. He wasn't, using his legs as much. It seemed he was underthrowing, David.
Yeah, I was about to say all of his interceptions, or both of his interceptions on Saturday were underthrows, right? Like
they're definitely underthrows, and he can throw. He has a better arm than that, and
that makes me think it's it was his right knee, so it's his plant leg. He's not able to set and throw in the same way, and Tyler is, like I remember back to that first year when he was like would get on those hot streaks and stuff, and I remember Rhett Lashley back then, like when he would talk about what Tyler did well and what he didn't. Like Tyler, as we've said a lot, he's got kind of a funky, he throws sidearm a lot, right? He's got kind of a funky delivery. And because of that, I think sometimes his lower body mechanics are not always super sound. And you can see when he struggled is when his lower body mechanics were not sound. And obviously if you've got a knee injury, then it's hard to have those mechanics in line. Like we know, when the whole machine is operating well for him, he's as good as any quarterback in the country. But when a piece of that machine gets off, we've seen it even when he's been healthy, right? If he's not, he does get in, like he gets turnover prone sometimes and inaccurate. And he looked like, there are two versions of Tyler, right? And it was bad Tyler on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was. And I feel really bad about that because I don't know. He's just, it just seems like now 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, he ends up playing hurt. So, and it's going to affect his future. I mean, he can come back.
Right. Yeah. He has
that's the story. And now, David, I wrote this week also about his backups. Emory Williams, we talked about, who started the one game against Clemson, and won. And Jakari Brown, who still has not played yet. Mm-hmm. That was another one of our stories. He played several games. He played in 5 games last season. He started 2 games, and he won one of them. He played beautifully against Georgia Tech, and then he was just pummeled in that at Clemson game next to the last game of the season. They're trying to get into a bowl, and they knew that Tyler couldn't go. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a nightmare, but Jakari played a lot last year.
Yeah, and he played even before he was starting, right? They had he was a short yardage Wildcat quarterback for them too.
He's a Wildcat. He's fun to watch run.
Yeah.
He's really good. Really. And so now they have 4 games in which they could play him. There's 5 games left, including the bowl. They have 4 games they can play him, and he could still maintain a red shirt and come back next year as a sophomore, right? He's a sophomore now. But it sounds to me, because I asked the question, like he might not play this year. Maybe they will play him. Maybe that's in their little plans. But it sounds like they've decided to burn the red shirt of Emory Williams. Remember Emory, the true freshman, he's played in 4 games this year, including that start against Clemson.
Right.
And he can't play in another game and maintain. If he plays in another game, he comes back as a sophomore next year. If he doesn't play any other games, he's a redshirt freshman. He just saves the whole year. But honestly, I don't think they're going to do that, and I don't think Tyler's not in the best of shape. He needs to know that there's still 5 games left.
Yeah,
I can't see Tyler playing every minute of every game from now. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I don't think he's in danger of being benched for performance, as obviously sports in general are a what have you done for me lately thing. And Tyler's really, really bad on Saturday, but they don't have there's no backup sitting there waiting to come in and throw for 350 yards. Like we know he can. Like,
right.
Emory was very respectable in his one start, but he didn't throw a pass longer than 10 yards until Miami was down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. Like the team was really trying to win that game with defense and running and win a low scoring game, which they can do. You know, this defense is really good. I think for the most part.
Yes, it is. They're doing
obviously
great.
We saw that particularly against Clemson, but I thought, you know, defense was pretty good again on Saturday. But, you know, Emory, as you would expect, a freshman who was not recruited to be a, you know, I don't want to get caught up in star rankings. He was a 3-star guy, but not even that. He wasn't sometimes you have to recruit a quarterback with the intent that he's going to play right away, right? Those guys are usually like 5 stars, high 4-star guys, but Miami recruited Emory Williams knowing he was going to ideally sit for a year. Like, he wasn't supposed to start games this year. He was admirable in that situation against Clemson, obviously, but Miami has no intention to like go back to that. They've got their quarterback, but yeah, I mean, Tyler is clearly hurt. You know, every week theoretically he could get a little bit healthier. I think, you know, his
confidence is down.
Right, his confidence is shot a little bit.
I think it is.
And he can be better even while playing hurt, right? Like his decision making was like not great. He always is a guy who probably like likes to sling it around a little too much. I think he gets impatient a little bit. He even kind of like said as much after the game on Saturday. Like,
yeah,
you can throw checkdowns all night, but he is eventually going to want to like try to take a shot. And physically right now, he might not be able to do that to the same degree. If he can accept his physical limitations right now, then he'll probably be fine. You know, is he going to be as good as he was in the first month of the season with all these injuries? He probably can't, but he can still be very solid. And as we said, with this deep, like they won without their quarterback essentially for 2 weeks in a row. They've won with below average quarterback play, which is not something Miami did basically. I guess they beat Virginia last year with bad quarterback play, but pretty much in college football, it's hard to win with bad quarterback play. And Miami's not done it a lot, basically since De'Aaron King got to Miami, going on 4 years now or whatever that is. They've done it 2 weeks in a row, which is a good sign. But Tyler almost lost it in the game on Saturday with some of those mistakes, which is the problem.
Yeah, I would like to see them throw more to the running backs. Honestly, you don't see Tyler throw a lot to the running backs. Okay, I'd like to see him throw some passes to Fletcher or
Rashard Smith. Obviously, they dropped.
Yeah, I'd like to see some short passes. I'd like to see, where did the tight ends go? What happened to the tight ends? You know, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the youngest guys, who plays, who doesn't, and that'll be the next chapter, the next mystery. And yeah,
I still, you know, again, this team, they're 5-2 as we're talking now. Like, they're going to make a bowl game barring disaster.
6-2. They're
6-2. Yeah, they're going to make a bowl game, and could make a decent bowl. You know, this team could easily win 8 games this year or more.
Oh yeah.
The ceiling is all about what Tyler's health is, though. Like, this team is, even if Tyler plays the way he did Saturday,
yeah,
there's winnable games left on the schedule. They're going to win 7 or 8, hopefully. Even if he's just super physically compromised. But
Florida State, woo.
Yeah, but like, if you want to beat Florida State, if you want to beat Louisville, like, you're gonna have to get a little bit better play from Tyler Van Dyke than we saw.
Right, you got a good offensive line.
Yeah.
So great offensive line, by the way.
Yeah, great offensive line, and you know, we should also say they won on Saturday, and this I think transitions us nicely to another one of those exciting freshmen. They won on Saturday with a really compromised running back room. Henry Parrish, first game back from an injury, 2 carries. That's it. Don Chaney, who is, you know, other than the fumble against Georgia Tech, I think been like a really bright spot for this team this year. Coming back from his injuries, was out of the lineup. AJ Allen, who has one of the best runs of the year, one of the best runs you'll see in college football this year, for Miami. One of their touchdowns, hurdling over a defender and then backpedaling into the end zone. He was off to a really, he had 11 carries for 67 yards and then got hurt, was on his way to a really good game.
Yeah. Hurt his
and
hamstring.
then Mark Fletcher steps up at the end of the game. So they won not just with Tyler Van Dyke dinged up, but with two of their top three running backs out. Fletcher's right in that mix too, but in terms of probably the guys who lead the team in carries, two of their top three running backs. And big reason why is another one of these freshmen, the freshman class. It's every week we've got someone to talk about, in this week, Mark Fletcher was pretty spectacular in his return from an injury too. He hadn't played since the Temple game way back in September. So he comes back from an injury, and on the last drive of the game, Tyler's been struggling. So what do? They run 3 straight run plays, every one of them to the freshman Mark Fletcher, and he pounds it into the end zone for them with a little help, with a little assist from Javion Cohen on the sideline, shoving him into the end zone.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, really great. Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah,
Fletcher is just not only that, he's like great, such a nice kid. Oh my God. And when you see him in person, he's
huge,
big.
Oh, he looks like an NFL running back, like already.
He is so big.
Yeah.
Wow. And big and really fit looking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's tall, but he's not skinny at all, but he's not fat at all. I mean, he looks so strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's pretty intimidating, actually.
He's a big guy. I mean, he runs over guys. He breaks tackles, he runs over guys.
Yeah, and he's really talented, and he loves the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
It's his home team. And I love these kids that want to be home, like Ruben Bain and all that. I mean, it's just so great.
Yeah, those two. I mean, obviously, like Francis Maingoa is like, we don't talk about him a lot because he's an offensive lineman, but he's been one of the best freshmen in the country. If you can come in and start at tackle for a borderline top 25 team, you're really good. But yeah, I mean, Fletcher hasn't been a huge topic of conversation because he's been hurt so much. But yeah, he and Bain, it's like both local guys. Bain he's going to Sonic now after every game and putting out pictures, fully leaning into the
you saw that we asked him if
this week we got him again.
Yeah, he took a real serious,
he was like holding his bag, the
Sonic,
lemonade or whatever. Yeah,
it's very funny. And he said, hopefully, we asked if he's gotten any NIL deals yet, and he was so serious. He's very serious. He said, well, hopefully that's coming. How he's so funny.
Yeah,
he's like, not yet, but hopefully.
I would go get a Bain burger or a Reuben.
Yeah,
I think you either do the Bain burger or the Reuben for Reuben Bain.
The Reuben Bain. Yeah, I just want to have pastrami or corned beef or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's Sonic. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously he's been like, we've talked so much about him, but Fletcher is, similar. They're different positions. Like Bain is a guy who, because he's a defensive lineman, like we're going to be talking about him as one of the most valuable players in the country, potential first round pick, all that kind of stuff. Obviously running backs are not treated the same way, but man, he's been like, see the best freshman running back at Miami is most impressive freshman running back Miami's had since like Duke Johnson. Like they've had some good, DJ Dallas was good as a freshman, but
Duke was really good. Yeah.
Like he's just really, he looks like really like one of the, not very often a guy comes in and right away you're like, oh, this guy's gonna be in the NFL. And I kind of feel that way about Mark Fletcher already.
For sure.
And as you mentioned, the hometown thing, like in the press conference, he was the last guy to talk, and his whole family is like sitting there in the back, and
whole family is hugging him, and I loved it. He's so happy. He's a very happy, friendly, very warm, kind of guy. And Ruben, who I really like, is kind of serious.
Yeah.
He's kind of funny in a way, but he's very serious. They have totally different personalities. So, Miami Mario did some great recruiting.
Yeah, you definitely cannot argue with that. And those are the reasons to as we've said a lot, the reasons for optimism are that freshman class. And they're still recruiting well for future classes. And the offensive line, which again, we don't like talk, neither of us are experts by any stretch, but like
no, but they're gonna
lose a lot of guys, but the way that Mario rebuilt that line, like
right.
that just makes me think every year they're gonna like, whether it's high ranked recruits like Francis Mangoa, whether it's a guy like Inez Cooper, who was like a total afterthought as a recruit that they both evaluated probably better than anyone else and developed just incredibly well. Or they're going to get a transfer every year. Like, that's just how college football works now. If you're an offensive lineman, Miami's going to be on your short list of where to go play because,
they're going to, especially with Javion, the left.
Javion Cohen's going to be in the NFL next year, right? Like Matt Lee could be in the NFL next year. Like, they're gonna have a lot of Jalen Rivers, who obviously predates Mario Cristobal, but he could be they're gonna have not to mention all the guys he's had at Oregon, but they're gonna pretty quickly have like a bunch of guys they can use basically as selling points for recruiting there. So
for sure.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here? Do you have anything on NC State? I kind of have no thoughts on NC State. Not gonna lie.
Well, I don't know that much, but in doing all the research, I haven't really watched them play this year, but I know that their defense is better than the offense, and they have a young quarterback. Here I have my cheat sheet, my advanced. They have a sophomore quarterback that was promoted over Brennan Armstrong.
Yeah,
poor Brennan. He played for Virginia. We saw him at
ACC
Virginia.
lifer, Brennan Armstrong. Yeah,
he was. I think he had his first year was really good, right?
Yes, they were like good that year. That was the year. It was like, it was I guess Bronco Mendenhall was still the head coach that year. They had Robert Ane and this like really touted coaching staff, and kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah.
He's been demoted. Brennan Armstrong, he transfers to Virginia, which I believe has his same original, the one that was in Virginia. He transferred to North Carolina State. I think their offensive coordinator is the same one he used to have at Virginia. So he transfers now. He's been demoted. He just didn't do well. And MJ Morris is a sophomore.
Yes.
But the Wolfpack is 104th nationally in total offense, 93rd in rushing, and 105th in passing. But defensively, they do the stack defense.
Their defense is always good. They've always got the best linebackers.
Yeah.
Peyton Wilson, right? He's like a mid-season All-American and all that kind of stuff.
They do a 3-3-5. That's the one that UM used a couple of games ago. A 3-3-5. And they're 17th nationally in team sacks and 28th in tackles for loss, 36th in total defense, 13th in passes intercepted. So they're defensively, which is kind of interesting because 13th nationally in passes intercepted,
Mm-hmm.
And Miami with Tyler, who knows what's going to happen.
Remember, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about how Miami was this team that was controlling the ball so well, no turnovers.
The thing is, the Miami offensive line, God bless him, man, for keeping him not
clean. Yeah, he did not get touched.
Not even touched. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen this game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Miami rose to a 5.5 point favorite today. They went up a point, so people are thinking Miami's going to win.
All right.
I'm not saying I
know.
I think Miami could lose just as easily as win. The way
I feel the same way every week.
Yeah. Who the hell knows?
All right. I think we can close things out there. You can follow Susan on Twitter at @SMillerDegnan. She'll be up in Raleigh. Spent a lot of time in Raleigh in the spring for the Panthers playoff run. Right next door at PNC Arena for the Pack play basketball. So
nice.
Fine little town, Raleigh.
I like it. I'm going to Sullivan's again.
Oh, nice.
So,
All right.
yeah. So
You can follow me on
be
Twitter
fun.
at DB Wilson too. Thanks as always for listening. We will talk to you guys next week.